Car Course. We're in Central Ohio where the Firestone Firehawk series stopped for a 6-hour endurance event. And this is the first time this season all 3 divisions of Firehawk were on the track at the same time. And Dorsey, that means a 70-car field, and that's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, you talk about busy. I remember we started a race at Watkins Glen, 107 cars. There was guys passing in the grass. It's really exciting to see 70 cars with all these speed differences. Good race today.
You're probably glad you're not out there. You've already had a pretty tough summer, upside down once, on fire once. It's been a rough year.
Yeah, but we're pre-disastered, you know. I think I'd like to be back out there. This is fun racing. I miss my teammates at Paul Rossi. These guys are going to have a good time, win, lose, or draw.
Well, starting up front, of course, is the Grand Sports Division, and of the 10 top qualifiers, 9 are Porsches. So the Porsches continue to dominate in Grand Sports. We've got a lot for you in this half hour of Firestone Firehawk. Here's what's coming up. Defending Grand Sports champ Joe VARDE tries to earn a return trip to victory lane. Only now he's driving the popular Porsche. We'll have the race report. Firehawk receives strong support from many automobile manufacturers. This series is a research and development tool, as well as a showcase event for their cars. And the sports and touring divisions roll out for a 6-hour race, all coming up on Firehawk. Today's show is brought to you by Firestone, the official sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team, and by Oldsmobile. Come see the power of intelligent engineering. It is a 2.4-mile track here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Dorsey, tell us a little bit about it.
2.4-mile track and brand new pavement. They paved this last year. They widened it to 40 feet minimum all the way around, so it's a very fast track. But it's really only fast on one half. The first half, real long straightaway, it's fast. The back half, windy turns, emphasis on handling.
Take a look at the Grand Sports Division, and up front, 9 of the top 10 qualifiers are Porsches. They're very fast.
And surprising, the guy who's led this division for the longest, Joe VARDE, no longer in a Chevrolet. You see him in a Porsche this week. He's leading.
He won here a year ago in a Camaro. Let's go down to Dan Kenyon on the track.
Joe, for years you've been dominant in a Chevrolet. You make the switch to Porsche, you get another win, you set a track record here. I mean, how are things?
Well, I've had a lot of luck. I was pretty lucky to have Mark Sandridge give me a ride in his 944. And, you know, everything happened to click well, and the car just runs good, and the team the team does everything so right that it's hard to do bad.
The field rolled out with one manufacturer heavily favored. 9 of the top 10 cars were Porsches. The 98 Bill Gray Racing Camaro spoiled the nearly Porsche-only party by qualifying 6th. But the Camaro got cornered by the 51 Porsche on the opening lap. The contact cut a tire. Stu Hainer was forced to pit and fell way back in the field. The 50 and 51 team cars were the class of the course. Mark Sandridge started at the wheel of the 50 and Freddie Baker in the 51. Sandridge set the early pace, but on lap 7, Baker took over the lead and the chase was on. The Kelly Moss 07 Porsche of David Murray and Bobby Aiken applied pressure from the 3rd position and took the lead on lap 29. The Kelly Moss crew, with 2 wins already this season, had high hopes to take number 3 at Mid-Ohio. Aiken was doing the job, leading for 23 laps. And the second Kelly Moss car was also a contender, running inside the top 5. Jared Freeman, Lee Miller, and Thomas Lepper also had a strong run going in the 06 Porsche. And on lap 53, the 06 became the 5th leader of the day. As the crowded field clicked off the next 20 laps, the contenders came into sharp focus. After falling victim to a flat tire on the opening lap, Stu Hainer piloted his Camaro from the very back of the pack all the way into 2nd. But when it came time to fuel, Hainer had to stop under green.
Every time that we would get a good, the leaders would get a good gap on me, then we'd get a yellow, so I kept bunching it up, and we really had the luck of the yellows at that time, but then we unfortunately didn't get the luck of the yellows for our pit stop, and we went down a lap, we're 1 car behind the leader, 1 lap down. If we could just get that leader in for a fuel stop, then we'd be on the same lap, and I think we could catch him then.
The 06 Porsche held the lead for 7 laps, but when they stopped for fuel, the crew was tagged with a 10-second penalty because the gas man was not wearing the mandatory goggles. The 84 Phoenix Commodities Porsche led 5 laps, and the 25 Mountain Autosport BMW led for 4. VARDE replaced Sandrich in the 50 Porsche, and the defending champ wasted little time getting to his familiar front-running position, taking the lead on lap 72 and making certain he was in control. Freddie Baker yielded to Jeff Klein, and the 51 car was back on the track in a hurry as the Porsches continued to dominate the 6-hour race. For over 30 laps, David Murray in the 07 chased VARDE. The parade included Murray's team car, the number 7 Kelly Moss Porsche, the 84 of Kim Campbell and Bill Cooper, and the number 2 Purina Dog Chow Camaro of BEAVER THEODOSAKIS and Leighton Reese. For this team, the season had been a struggle. BEAVER brought in a powerful new sponsor to the series this season, but 1991 has had a painful beginning.
We've had a rough season the first 3 races, some bad luck, running top 5 and 6 all 3 races, 2 mechanical problems and 1 driver brain fade, so we haven't gotten any points this season so far.
Another team struggling through the summer is the full-time racing team, trying to keep the overmatched and underdog Dodge Stealth competitive in Grand Sports. This day ended on lap 103 for the 89 car of Don Knowles and Ron Finger. And for teammate Jeff Perner, the defending division champ, the frustration was evident on his face and in his voice.
Well, the Dodge Stealth's, have been a good car, but we just can't seem to run real strong in this Grand Sports class, and the full-time racing team has just always done a great job. We finish all the races until now with this number 89 car, but we still got the other car out there, and it's running pretty good, and, maybe with a little luck we'll do all right.
But Perner's luck ran out on lap 182. The 85 Stealth quit with a mechanical glitch, a 17th place finish. Tight racing is a Firehawk trademark, and at Mid-Ohio, the huge field and tricky track underscore a driver's ability to stay out of trouble. One battle worth watching featured the Bill Gray Camaro and Kelly Moss Porsche. These 2 Grand Sports Division competitors were not willing to give an inch. Gray and co-driver Stu Hayner had one of the strongest Camaros in the field. Finally, David Murray worked around the stubborn Camaro and continued to chase the leaders. But for Murray and the Kelly Moss crew, high hopes of a high finish for the 07 Porsche ended in traffic. Murray, looking to get around one Honda, slammed into the rear of another that had slowed on the course. Murray ducked into the pits, and the cosmetic damage was quite evident.
There's a lot of body damage, but the engine seems to be running all right, and he just called in and said it feels okay. It don't look like any suspension or engine damage, so we're just hoping for the best.
So the Kelly Moss hopes of a 3rd straight win rested with the number 7 Porsche. But win number 3 was not to be. A talented quartet of drivers worked well through the 6-hour race, but the car was a lap down at the finish. VARDE pulled away from the pack, and the CRC computer Porsche led the last 42 laps. The Phoenix Commodities Porsche performed well and was running in 2nd place, but the 51 Porsche of Baker and Klein overhauled the 84 car and pushed into 2nd with less than 15 laps left. The 3 Porsches were the only cars on the lead lap. VARDE was able to successfully defend his Mid-Ohio title, but after 6 hours and 436 miles of racing, his winning margin was just 3 seconds over teammates Freddie Baker and Jeff Klein. Campbell and Cooper rounded out the top 3. Porsche took the top 7 positions.
No big troubles today, Mark?
No, it was a great ride. Every time I turned around, I was going, yahoo! Yeah. So the CRC Porsche 944 S2 was just performed perfect for me. Just great. So.
Joe, why the reason the switch from the Chevrolet you've been with for all those years over to the Porsche?
Well, we figured out Porsche had a little bit of an edge this year. One manufacturer can't dominate all the time, so I do this for a living, so I have to go with what's good.
Coming up later in the show, an in-depth look at the sports and touring division.
And coming up next, winning isn't everything unless maybe you're an automobile manufacturer. Dan Kenyon has that story when we return.
The momentum of competition in today's business world is grueling and fast-paced. Top performance demands fine-tuning, precision, and a commitment to excellence. NAPCO, the performance paper company, offers you all of this and much more. Take control of your business and accelerate into the lead by calling NAPCO for all of your paper and related supplies. NAPCO and you, a winning combination.
Welcome back to Firehawk. Now, in this series, there are many manufacturers involved, all with differing degrees of involvement. But what they can learn through Firehawk, they put back into racing and also back into the product the consumer can buy through their automobile dealer. Absolutely. Racing is torture on the engine, on the transmission, on brakes, suspension. They're going to find out what wears out, why, and they'll be able to fix it before it goes too far. With more on that story, let's join Dan Kenyon.
It's been said that the Firestone Racing Series is a proving ground for many talented drivers. Well, the same can be said for the automobiles in the series as well. It's on these tracks that the various manufacturers get to showcase their cars as well as test various pieces of equipment. And all the automotive companies enjoy the exposure of the series.
We get certainly marketing and public relations value, the opportunity to showcase our car, and perhaps more importantly, as an engineering company, which we are, it gives us an opportunity to use this as a very valuable testing bed to prove and improve the cars that we sell to the public.
Toyota is now in their first full season on the Firehawk circuit after testing the waters in 3 races last season. The 2-car team has had good success so far and prefers this format of racing to show off their MR2 sports coupe.
I think, first of all, the Firehawk Series is the premier showroom stock series in the United States, so there was never a question of which series we wanted to be involved in when we wanted to race. But basically, we look at the Firehawk Series as a test bed for our current model vehicles, unlike how we look at the IMSA GTP Series, which is an experimental, long-range type high-tech series that technology eventually ends up in a production car. The showroom stock type racing that we're doing here is you're racing your current product as basically as it comes off of the showroom, except for safety modifications. So we can learn more in one weekend of racing here than perhaps our test people driving the cars on the highways can in a year, because you just put them to such extreme circumstances. We evaluate braking, cooling, aerodynamics, every aspect of the car, engine performance, and you just learn so much from doing this type of racing.
The Saturn Corporation came in this season with high hopes for their new sports coupe. The engineers take the information from the track and apply it to their street cars.
Stan Fowler is the person who's organized the involvement in the series, and with these particular cars we feel they're most competitive, the SCs. The DOHC engine is the only one that's available in the car, and with a 5-speed manual. The cars are very successful. We've done a lot of development work in the dynos over the past few years to very much optimize the engines, and I think that's typified by the somewhat very successful track record to date here. We're involved in basically technical support of the engines, and to ensure that they're durable, as we've seen in all of our testing for the street usage. And it's beneficial as a whole to be involved in motor racing, to understand its performance and learn from that. We're in the early stages right now of learning curve, so as things develop then we'll be rolling some of those concepts back into production cars and to the competitiveness of the engine.
The success of the CRX SI has helped Honda become the winningest manufacturer in the 7-year history of the series with 31 career victories. Factory support is strong, and the success speaks for itself.
We're involved in this type of racing to support the teams who got involved in racing and were successful in the Firehawk Series. We feel they have a great showcase. We feel that they've done very well. We also like to support Firestone and IMSA as well for handling this series.
Now, obviously, different manufacturers learn different things through different instances, but Dorsey, you've taken that 1 or 2 steps further this summer. Yeah, and hopefully these guys won't be learning about how to be upside down or be on fire. What they will learn, though, is how to race tight race good in a good series.
And we've got some good competition coming up next, the Sports and Touring Division highlights when we return. Next week on Firehawk, the 24-hour marathon from Watkins Glen. It's a demanding test for man and machine. We'll see who wins and who doesn't. Next week on Firehawk. Welcome back to Mid-Ohio. Now, we've already taken a look at the grand sports competition in the Firestone Firehawk Endurance Series. Now we're going to break out the Sports and Touring Division highlights. And, Dorsey, that's very competitive racing as well.
Well, it is. There's 3 races within one as the Sports Division has its stars, its cars, its teams, touring the same way. In the past, sports has been dominated by Paul Rossi. I know, I drove for him. Not this year. Paul Hacker and his Oldsmobiles is giving very strong competition. In touring, you've always had a Honda versus Volkswagen battle. That continues. Surprisingly, the touring cars sometimes are so much faster in the corner, you'll see them pass a Grand Sport car.
Another strong entry this season, the Toyota on the pole for the sports division in this event.
You know, for a first time out in this series for this team, we are very happy. And we knew we'd be competitive, and we're lucky to do a couple of wins, but I think we're a little ahead of schedule, and we'll take it.
Cord had captured his first ever Firehawk pole with a record-setting run during qualifying. But he surrendered the lead early on to teammate Dennis Aussie in the 67 Circus Toyota. And the veteran Aussie was impressive, holding off the challenges of the Castrol Oldsmobiles and the Ninja Turtle Tauruses. In touring, John Green got the Copper Kettle Honda on the pole, and this team went to work fending off the feisty fleet of contenders in the large touring division. The pursuers included the 44 Saturn of Peter Farrell and Mark Kent, looking for their second straight win after visiting Victory Lane in Topeka. The 56 American Tourister Honda and the second Copper Kettle Honda were also among the front runners. Aussie and Cord were the front 2 sports division cars for most of the first 40 laps. Buddy Norton made a run at the leaders and was running second on lap 30, but his car retired on lap 46 with an engine problem. Willie Lewis was a consistent contender, swapping third place with the Hacker Oldsmobile. In touring, Kent and Farrell made their move early, taking over the division lead by lap 40. Green and Lance Stewart ran second before the 95 Nature's Secret Oil BMW showed some surprising strength, battling with Bill Artsberger and Dan Hillenbrand for the second spot for 40 laps. But the Artsberger threat ended on lap 108 with a mechanical problem. The Circus team had 2 problems. One was waiting for driver P.J. Jones to get to the track from a race in Milwaukee, and the second problem came on lap 56 when Cord crashed in turn 7. Chris was checked and released from the track medical facility.
Everything's okay. The car is not so okay, but fortunately we've got a 2-car team, and Dennis has taken over the lead, and you know, we're just going to hope that we can carry the 1 car to the victory.
While the Toyota team waited on Jones, the 67 led lap after lap after lap, chased first by the Turtles, then by the Hackers. Speed is certainly an essential in road course racing, but as several drivers discovered, Mid-Ohio demands a disciplined attack. Mid-Ohio also proved to be another frustrating experience for the Eagle Talons of Paul Rossi. 4 cars in the field, but none in contention. Meanwhile, in touring, the Valvoline Saturn of Kent and Farrell, which roared to the front by lap 40, still had the lead 100 laps later.
We're in first place by 48 seconds, and we even have the advantage in the pit stops in our favor against the Honda Copper Kettle car. Our car is just running absolutely excellent, our number 44 car.
So the Saturn had settled the issue early, leading the touring field by more than a lap and cruising to a first-place finish. But the sports division race came right down to the closing laps. Jones, fresh from his flight to the track, lost the lead when he was forced to pit for brakes. The 00 Castrol Oldsmobile assumed the lead and led the chase for the checkers. But that car was forced to stop for fuel, giving the lead to the 0 car.
The lead's being cut about a second a lap. You got enough time to win it?
Yeah, we have enough time to stay ahead of the Toyota with the lead car, the 0 car. I think we're about 10 seconds ahead of the Toyota with our number 2 car after losing some time on that quick splash and go.
Jones did run out of time, and Paul and Carl Hacker took the win, making Paul Hacker the all-time win leader in Firehawk history with 16 career victories.
PJ was catching you, I guess, a second and a half a lap. Were you being posted on where you stood there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was letting off at the kink in the back straightaway, right out of the fuel, and just backing way off into long coasts, anything I could. And near the end, I was giving up 7 seconds a lap because I was using, like, tippy-toe throttle. I mean, I just touched the throttle and just eke it out. I was scared to death. I was using up every little margin I had.
Do you have any trouble today?
Not really. Some of the cars in sports are a little faster than us on the straightaway, and we're a little quicker in the turn, so it's a little dicey there sometimes. But the Saturn really ran well today.
Well, that about wraps it up for Mid-Ohio, but Dorsey, this is such a great facility, you almost hate to leave. It is probably the prettiest facility in North America. It's really nice, but we're also going to a really nice racetrack, Watkins Glen. And next week, we'll have highlights from the 24-hour Firehawk event up there. That's quite a fiasco. Well, I tell you, I'll never forget my first 24-hour race. I was so excited, but I don't want to do another one of those again. This separates the men from the boys. It's endurance. Well, I got bad news for you. You got to do another one next week with us. We'll have highlights from the Glen 24-hour event next Sunday. And don't forget to make Inside Winston Cup Racing a part of your Sunday every week here on TNN. We'll see you next week on the Firestone Firehawk.
Today's show has been brought to you by Oldsmobile. Come see the power of intelligent engineering. And by Firestone, the official sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. Communications for Firehawk provided by Racing Radios, Forest Park, Georgia. Racing Radios, the official communications of IMSA.